And welcome back to Music Free Static. Hope you're having a fabulous day. And today, once again, I have my wonderful and amazing guest, co-host, love of my life, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, because this is one of those few things that we actually both like, right? We both like to read and stuff, but we like to read different books. We like movies and TV shows, but totally different genres and things. But Star Trek is one of those things that we totally agree with. So today we're just going to talk about everything Star Trek, right? We'll talk about series, we'll talk about movies, and we'll get into details and stuff later. But let's get into first, how did you get into Star Trek?
My mom was into Star Trek, so I watched a little bit of the original series when I was growing up. Not a lot, because I, had school and everything, and so I didn't watch it with her a huge amount. But I did watch a little bit.
Right.
She made me watch Trouble with Tribbles. There we go.
Yes. Also Trouble with Grammar. Gotcha.
Yeah,
right
yes. And I liked that. And then when Next Gen came on, I was still growing up at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She had just left her husband at the time, and it was on when both of us were at home. And I was a teenager. Maybe it was before that. I don't remember. Anyway, but we watched.
80s, so.
We watched Next Gen together. When I was a teenager, and I enjoyed it. And so when others came out, I watched those too.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, see, I got into Star Trek with the original series because my dad was taping it off TV, and we had like 3 or 4 VHS tapes of Star Trek episodes, and I would just watch those. And all the good ones, of course, Tribbles and A Piece of the Action, and and a few of the bad ones too, but all of the good original series. And then, yeah, same thing. Next Gen came out, and we would watch that together, and yeah, and we watched all of those and the movies and all of that good stuff. So yeah, Trek was definitely part of my childhood, in with Star Wars and everything else, but watched a lot of Trek. So I don't know what I try to get this question right. So what do you like about Trek?
There are kind of a lot of things. I'm a little bit into sci-fi, not a huge amount, but I kind of like that aspect of it. Astronomy was one of my favorite parts of science, studying science growing up, and so that's kind of part of it. But I think what I most like about it is the interaction between the characters, the study of human nature, the fact that people aren't mean to each other for the most part.
Yes,
it's that kind of not quite perfect society, but still very good society.
Yes, that was one of those things. I know Roddenberry, when he talked about when he was making Star Trek, he wanted to show humanity growing up. Right, they're more mature than they are now. Not like modern, like Star Trek Discovery, where it's just like mature with a capital M, and children aren't supposed to watch it or something. Right? But no, it was humanity is better, right? That's the thing in the original series. You had the diversity of the bridge crew, right? You had Americans. They brought Chekhov on, so there's a Russian, which is the middle of the Cold War, so that was a big deal. Uhura, of course, being both female and black, was a big deal, right? And of course, Next Gen, yeah, it's the same. Everyone's nice, right? I mean, Worf can sometimes be a jerk, but
Yeah, but he's Klingon, and that kind of goes with his character.
Exactly.
That's part of that Klingon culture.
Yep. And that was the thing, is it's like, hey, we can all get along and look at cool science stuff or weird social things, which also happened, and be better, right? even when you get into something that's a little darker, like DS9, you deal with some of the. I mean, the most of the crew mostly likes each other. Mostly.
Like might be a little bit strong a word, but they had an affection for one another.
Yeah.
Even with Quark, who he just irritated them to no end. But they kind of had a little bit of an irritated affection for him.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole relationship I loved seeing when
Yes.
they brought it out, was Quark and Odo.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Man.
Especially that one episode later on in the series where they get stranded on this planet.
Oh, yes.
That was hilarious. I loved seeing the interaction between the two of them.
Yes.
They still didn't like each other.
No.
But they're good people for the most part. So, I mean, based on their own cultures, they're good people. And so yeah. They had that annoyed affection for one another.
Oh, definitely annoyed.
Yes.
But on the other hand, they had enough respect, familiarity, something with each other that they weren't going to leave each other on the mountaintop to freeze.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, that was. And that's one of the things I liked about it, because Star Trek was always hopeful, right? It was always. I mean, yes, even with some of those episodes of Deep Space Nine where they really got dark and Sisko is breaking laws to bring the Romulans into the war or whatever else was going on, but it was still hopeful. It's like, yes, humanity can be better, and look how, we have trouble, we have problems, but we can still be better.
Yeah, that's another one of the things that I really enjoyed is the study, I guess, of humanity, where that episode with Sisko that you were just talking about, wrestling with himself, trying to figure out, is this the right thing? You have that a lot in Star Trek of what is the right thing to do here, based on these values that we hold or that Starfleet holds. I really like that. And sometimes you get the worst parts of humanity showing up, but most of the time you see the best. But you still have those struggles that most people have, just in a different setting, I guess you could say.
Right.
Trying to figure out what's the right thing to do here. How do we get along with people and still hold our values?
That was one of the fun things about Star Trek. I mean, sci-fi in general, but Star Trek gives you the same characters to deal with some of those troubles. I mean, there were some really good episodes. Like the original series had City on the Edge of Forever.
That one's a good one.
Oh, man. There's a reason that one won awards for best screenplay or whatever it was. And, because Kirk has to make that choice of what do you do when the right thing to do is to let the person you've fallen in love with die. And dude, that's a hard thing to have to face, right? And I love that episode as it dives into that.
But the thing is that if you go not quite to that extreme, people have to deal with that all the time. How do you let, like especially parents, how do you let your child struggle with something?
Right.
How do you stand by and watch that happen? Because no parent wants to watch their children suffer or struggle or anything like that. But it's an important part of learning how to be strong so that when you're an adult, you can handle those things. And so it's kind of the same, not quite to the same degree as that story in City on the Edge of Forever, letting somebody die, but you still have that. How do you watch somebody struggle? How do you let that happen so that so for the good of that person or other people, it's still kind of a similar struggle,
right,
that people can identify with.
Well, it was like there was one episode of Next Gen where they're making first contact, and Riker gets injured and is taken into their hospital, which of course then leads to all sorts of chaos and fun and other things. But
that has a little bit of that M implied, uppercase M.
So there's the one nurse whose goal in life is to get it on with an alien, and Riker is right there. Right. But that struggle of, here's a society, we're ready to make first contact. They're ready to step into, and why they're making it is because the societies, they've developed a warp drive. They're going to develop interstellar travel. We need to let them know they're not alone. So let's do this cautiously. And yeah, all of the struggles, and you get excitement by some people. It's like, yes, we want to be part of the future. And some people, it's like, no, like we can't do this.
I think that's one of the things that kind of a lot of people, that Star Trek appeals to a lot of people because you have those kinds of things that people can identify with. You can't necessarily identify with the specifics. You're not going out and meeting alien worlds, but we have different cultures. We have different, just even within our own culture, dealing with other people that are different than us, and how do you deal with that? And also, just like I was saying before, just our own daily lives, not even dealing with, people outside of our family, but also inside our family, dealing with some of those same types of struggles, even if the specifics are different. The principle, I guess you could say, is the same.
Yeah, the idea that, oh yeah, we can look at this other culture with their weirdness, however weirdness is defined for that episode, and so, yeah, we can be accepting of that or not. Sorry, that part of your culture is just wrong.
Yeah, not having turkey for Thanksgiving is wrong.
The worst thing ever. We'll talk about that more in June.
In a future episode. Yeah, absolutely.
for our anniversary episode. But yeah. But yeah, well, but
it has that same kind of thing. When you get married, you're blending those cultures, and so Star Trek can really help you see maybe how that might come about, how that might be done, blending other cultures.
They had a few of those episodes with Worf.
Oh yeah,
where they were looking at Klingon culture, and there were a couple in Next Gen. There were a lot of them in Deep Space Nine, where they were bringing in all of the weirdness from a human perspective of Klingon culture. As, there's the one episode of Next Gen where Worf ends up walking through this down this hallway, and Klingons poke him with pain sticks. Just a bunch of those types of episodes of, yeah, we're going to dive into this culture. And how does Worf and all of his Klingon, I was going to say baggage, culture come in?
Speaking of accepting other people's cultures.
I know. I just, I'm sorry, it's the sash. I can't take that, No, but seeing all of that, it's like, okay, yeah, there are real lessons that we can take from that. Now, there are some of those episodes that just go right off the deep end of hyper preachy.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, and there are some that, okay, yes, it's preachy. This part of this culture is bad, and we should not maybe have this part of the culture. Our culture, right? Because Star Trek holds up a mirror to ourselves, right? But, and some of those, it's like, it happens a lot in the courtroom dramas that they do in Star Trek, which is one of the reasons I don't like those episodes as much. But there's the one where It's the one kid who lied about being Vulcan, who's actually part Romulan. And I think it's the drumhead, I think that's what it was. But this admiral shows up, and then police state breaks out on Enterprise, and ends with Picard on trial, and insert epic speech of righteousness here that forces an end to the proceedings, right?
That one made more sense at the time that it was made.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a little bit more recent in history. The struggles that our society had with that kind of thing were a little bit more recent. Whereas now, 40 years later or something like that, it's not that we don't still have those struggles, it's just not quite as socially acceptable as it was back then.
Yeah, we definitely have some of those. Well, it's like the original series, aside from being a bad episode, there was the one episode where this woman like mind swaps with Kirk.
Oh, that was such a bad episode.
It was such a bad episode because she wanted to be a starship captain, but Starfleet wouldn't let her because women were not emotionally stable enough to be starship captains. Yeah. Can you see the back of your head when your eyes roll back that hard? All right, it was
yeah.
It was so bad, right? But also looking back, here it is. It's 2026. Looking back at 1969 when Kirk and Uhura kiss, right? That was a big deal in 1969.
Speaking of those kinds of things being a little bit more recent in history back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big deal. Officially, the first interracial kiss on American television. So, and I've heard discussions. Oh, in that take, they didn't actually kiss. It's like, doesn't matter if that's what you see on film, but it looks like they do. Close enough. But yeah, some of those episodes you watch, it's like, really? Is that really the take we're going to be having here? But then there are some like The Inner Light.
That one's my favorite.
Oh man,
I love that one. But that one's my favorite episode of all of the ones I've seen, all the Star Trek I've seen, because it's because of me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time letting go of friendships and people and that kind of thing. Mostly friendships, because I moved around a lot as a kid.
Right.
And it was always very difficult for me to make friends. So the Inner Light, when he lives this whole life, he has his family and all these friendships and everything, and then it's ripped away from it, and it never really existed. And that just really hits me in those traumas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a very, very good episode.
Oh, it is. And where they made the choice, and apparently they had to fight for it, to have the episode end with just listening to Picard play the flute as the Enterprise then goes sailing off, instead of going into their orchestral.
And it would have been a shame if they hadn't let that happen that way. It was just really powerful ending it that way.
I what's interesting too is when they brought it back several times, Picard playing that flute. There was the one episode in Next Gen where he meets this woman in stellar cartography.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of fall for each other, but part of the reason they connect, or one of the ways they connect, is through music. Is her with her roll-out piano and him with the flute. And it was cool seeing them bring that back. And it's like, yeah, this is a real window into Picard's soul.
Yeah, that one was a good episode too.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that one.
That one was interesting too, from a
little odd, but it was still very good.
That one was interesting. The I don't know how to disaster of the episode, right? Here's the crew or their science team stuck on the planet with giant wall of fire coming at them. that was sort of, yeah, okay, whatever. They'll science their way out of this because it's Star Trek and that's just what they do. Or magic their way out of it. Some of the Q episodes, who knows?
Yes.
But that episode was really interesting, exploring the social dynamics of being the captain of a starship.
Which was also very interesting and has made me think over the years of how do family relationships work with not just captains, but also everyone else in Starfleet. How do you make a relationship work that's like light years apart? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But it has made me think. But the starship captain would be weird because how could you even have a relationship with a subordinate? And that's really interesting how that episode explores that.
Right. Because you see it in Voyager with Paris and B'Elanna. It's here's relationship between coworkers. And Voyager at least had the excuse of, we're all stuck on the ship. We're not going anywhere. We probably should be pairing up. But they're not, they're subordinates. They're not even in the same department. Right? But how does it work for, the captain of the starship? That's really lonely.
Which you bring that up. I mean, they explore it in Next Gen with Picard, but they're still in the Federation. He could have a relationship with somebody else if he chose. Whereas with Voyager, Janeway doesn't have anybody. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have other captains to talk to. It's just her.
Right.
And that was actually one of the very interesting things to see in Voyager is how Janeway deals with that. She has to get chummy with the crew, mm-hmm. and relies a lot more on Chakotay, her first officer, to help with those kinds of struggles. Mm-hmm. So that, I think that's one of the interesting things about Voyager was exploring that part when these 140 some odd people are all you have to deal with as far as not necessarily just humanity, because you have different cultures there too even, but that's all you have of the Federation, and that could get very lonely, mm-hmm. as the captain and other people as well, but more so for the captain and the bridge officers or the upper management. That's not what I mean, but it's the same kind of idea. You know what I mean?
The upper ranks.
The upper ranks. That's even more so for them, and mm-hmm. that's how they would get closer, and they become a family. Just everybody on the ship, even, but especially the upper ranks.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why there were a couple of episodes where they were holodeck episodes, which some of those were hit or miss across. Yes. All of the series, but they were. Paris had put together a town, I think, it was like a Irish town or something, New England town.
Fairhaven,
yeah. And the crew was going there, and Janeway falls for the barkeep or something, right?
Oh, holodecks would be so dangerous.
Oh man. Yes.
I could totally see that. I mean, Janeway's issue with that barkeep, where she like changes things about him, mm-hmm. which just makes him more appealing to her. Oh, so many people would do that, and it would destroy your real life relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can't have a perfect person. It's impossible.
No.
Not real people anyway.
No, but in the holodeck, you can have whatever you want. The problem is whatever you want is not necessarily what's good for you, too, which is mm-hmm. the other side, which then falls into like Barclay. Oh, yeah. Right.
Who, I get Barclay. I mean, yes. He's kind of an annoying character, but probably how a lot of people see me. But I get Barclay. Mm-hmm. Being, wanting only to be in the holodeck because they understand him. Well, he's programmed them to understand him. I get it.
Right.
I would be so much that way. And the socially awkward thing, I totally get that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. He can
Barkley is like me.
Well, yeah. Well, he can shed all of his social anxieties on the holodeck because he knows there's no consequences of social rejection.
He can just program them to like him and to, he can be the hero there.
Right. And just everybody's going to treat him as the hero, right? And now there's Troy, the goddess of empathy, or what, right?
Yeah.
You
I love when the real Troy meets her. She's just like, muzzle it.
I don't think I've seen Troy closer to wanting to kill somebody than when she walked into that holodeck and so.
Yes. That was so funny.
But yeah, you can totally see that, and the adult entertainment possibilities of holodeck. They mentioned obliquely at one point. Another fascinating episode was there was an episode. It was an arranged marriage between an empath and whatever other head of state, and the Ferengi who tricked their way onto the ship accidentally let her loose out of her stasis egg or whatever, and she has this strong empathic attraction to every guy around her. Right? She walks into 10 forward and half the people in there start fighting over her. And Riker walks her back to her quarters, and of course she is coming on to him hard in all of the ways apparently he likes. But Riker is good. He's no, thank you. He walks off, and Bridge, if you need me, I'll be in holodeck 2. It's like, what is Riker going to be doing in holodeck 2?
And as a teenager, it kind of went over my head. I was like, okay, maybe he's just going to exercise velocity. I don't know why that's the way I looked at it as a teenager. But as an adult, I'm like, yeah, you know what he's doing there.
Uh-huh.
He's using the holodeck like Quark uses his holosuites.
Yes. Yes. Riker is going to need the mop. And right, but it's crazy. Well, and they do that actually. That's an explicit thing in Voyager, because they have a couple of Vulcan crew members. Oh yeah. And the Vulcans, you see it in the original series when Spock goes through Ponfar, and they go to Vulcan, and there's there's that whole deal. But what do you do when, for Vulcans, if you don't return to Vulcan and, mate, spawn, get it on? I don't know.
Spawn.
See, this is why I don't do poetry, right? But they die if they don't have this, right? Because they just lose all emotional control. So what do you do on a ship that is now 70, 80, 100, whatever years from Vulcan? They set up a holodeck program so that they could relieve their Vulcan urges.
Which kind of went awry the first time, but still, that was a really interesting thing to explore in Voyager.
Yes.
Especially with Tuvok being one of the bridge crew.
Right.
It would have been weird had they not addressed that.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a very interesting thing. A very Star Trek culture type thing to have explored. It was awesome that they actually did that, and a very creative way of handling it.
Right.
Although Tuvok, who says, no substitute for my wife. But it worked. That's
fair. I would certainly hope not, right? But at least he's not dying, so there's that, right? So yeah, there was just so much. And Then you step over into the movies and you get The Wrath of Khan, which of course was set up with the episode The Space Seed. But that one was, I love that one because it's a very cerebral, quote unquote, action movie. and the interplay between Khan and Kirk and all of that is really cool. Or The Voyage Home, where they end up, going to get the whales.
That one was good. That was another one my mom made me watch.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, this is kind of weird. But then watching the whole thing, I was like, that was really good. That's one of my favorite movies, is the one with the whales.
We are looking for nuclear vessels.
Yes.
Hello.
I think he had a little bit too much LDS, which is hilarious.
Too much LDS. That, yeah, absolutely a problem. Is the look that she gives him after he drops that. It's like,
yes.
But yeah, there were some really good. There were some really bad ones too. But
oh yes, there are some bad ones, and there are bad ones in every series that I've seen. There are some really good ones in every series.
Yes,
but some really bad ones too.
Yeah, I mean that's every once in a while. In the original series, Spock's brain, of course, is
so dumb.
The epitome
so
of bad.
Dumb. I mean, the sci-fi part of it is kind of interesting, but
yeah.
Spock walking around with no brain, it looks weird. I'm sorry, it just makes me laugh.
Which is hilarious because we're talking 1969 or something like that, and how do they control it? And nowadays they'd pull out a controller, right? All right, let's play Xbox Spock.
Yes.
But yeah, because there were a few of those. There were some in Next Gen, didn't have many. The ones they had tend to be later in the season.
Yeah,
but they had some weird episodes of. At least the first season, they got their characters wrong. Right. First, they weren't entirely sure what they were doing with Picard. And I don't think Patrick Stewart knew what he was doing with Picard. They didn't have a chief engineer, which seems like a really weird choice for Star Trek.
They did. They just didn't. It wasn't one of the main characters. It was just chief engineer, blah, blah.
And it was a different person.
Yeah.
They just didn't have a regular engineer until they said, oh, we probably should have one. Geordi seems like a good pick. He went from being the youngest member of the crew, short of Wesley, but the youngest regular member of the bridge crew to, oh, good, he's in command in engineering. Awesome. And it was a good choice. LeVar Burton.
I agree.
And Geordi was wonderful down there, but there are a few of those episodes just like, really?
Yeah, the first season of Next Gen, it took a while for them to get started. And the last season, some of them were really good. And some of them were really bad.
Yes.
Like the one with, the one where Troy is picking up on like the telepathic something in the ship, and they found, I don't know, she was imagining like murder, and it was like right when she got together with Worf.
Yes.
That one was just, it was so bad. I skip that when I go through the series sometimes.
Yeah.
Or the masks one, I skip that almost every time. I just don't like it, don't want to have anything to do with it.
That's right. It's like, oh, hey, everyone likes Brent Spiner, and they like it when Data does not Data things. We'll just let him play everybody and all the... There are a few of those, the first time through, I kind of don't mind. But after that, it's like, yeah. I mean, there was one, it's interesting on one hand and just facepalm worthy in the other was, I think, if I'm remembering right, half a planet wanted to join the Federation. And so you deal with all the fun stuff of the paranoia and all of that between the different sides for various reasons. Which that is sort of interesting to begin with. But then the other side of it is, here is Picard and Crusher escaping, mentally tied together. And now they're telepathically linked and find out that they're totally into each other. It's like, really?
Did we really need to do that? It's very soap opera-ish. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
This is Star Trek, not, I don't know what soap operas there are.
Well, I was going to say, is it these are the voyages or these are the days of your lives? And,
exactly.
Exactly.
That part was, I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the episode itself could have been really good.
Yeah.
If, honestly, exploring the two different parts of that, the paranoia of a society that wanted to become part of the Federation would have been an interesting thing to explore.
Right.
And only admitting half of the world could have been an interesting thing to explore, and they just kind of did both of them, which it works well enough.
Right.
But you could have separated it and split it.
Well,
and cut out one of the other stupid.
Or if you took just those two, right, that whole storyline by itself, but you don't need the Picard and Crusher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't need that. That just killed that whole episode.
Yeah. Well, and
the rest of it was really good. It's just that part was just like, really? Let's not do this.
Right. Well, and then in Deep Space Nine, there are a couple. There's all of the mirror universe ones.
Oh, I hate those. If they had done only one, maybe two of those mirror universe ones in DS9, it would have been fine. Great callback to the original series.
Right.
But they did, I don't know how many they did, but it was at least 4.
They did too many.
It was way too many.
Way too many.
Just, no. Let's not do that.
Yeah. There were those, and then all of was it Section 31?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they drug that on a little bit too much, too.
Yes. Yes, okay. The Federation has a secret intelligence service? Of course they do. Every government would. Because counterintelligence is as important as anything else, even if you're not really going out to spy, and you're in war. So, yeah. But they turned it into just it ripped all of the hope out of Star Trek that I liked.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems I had with Picard, that first season, which is the only season I've seen, is it basically said, oh yeah, all that hope and wonder that we had in Next Gen, yeah, all of that was bunk. And no, it turns out everything sucks and always will suck, and it's horrible. It's like,
yeah, you just killed the whole Star Trek universe at that point.
Yeah.
That's a whole different series. Just it's not good.
No.
I don't like that. You've made it into an action thing rather than that study of human nature, that spirit of cooperation, the betterment of humanity that I really like about Star Trek, and then you just destroyed it. You pulled it all out, and you're left with things that are average.
Yeah. Yep. So
I mean,
yeah.
the cinema,
it's the cinematography.
Yeah, that's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
that was good in Picard, but that's not why I watch things. I want the story. I like that exploration.
Right.
And you just got rid of it with that first season of Picard. They did bring it back to some degree with Strange New Worlds, which I liked. I've only seen the first season and the first episode of the second season. That's all I've seen.
Right.
But I liked it because it brought some of that Star Trekkie back.
It did.
That cooperation between the species, and it was good.
Yeah, the fun and the exploration and humanity is better, and we're gonna have challenges, but we can stand up to those because we are adults now. Right. Well, we're running along. So let's hit the last. Mentioned it a little bit. Favorite episodes.
Yeah, favorite. Okay, my favorite in the original series is City on the Edge of Forever.
Yep.
My favorite in Next Gen is Inner Light.
Right.
By far. I mean, that one's just really good. I don't know that I have a favorite in DS9. Yeah, I don't know if I have any one favorite, although the Tribbles one was fun.
That was good. I went back and rewatched that recently.
Yeah, I really like that one. But there are others that I like as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I could pick one, that one might be my favorite, but it's not one that I would point to and say, yeah, that's absolutely my favorite.
That makes sense.
I enjoy that one. But there are others that I really like too.
Yeah. In the original
Voyager, I don't know that I have any one favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I have aspects of Voyager that I really like when they brought 7 of 9 in.
Yes.
That one was a good choice. She was a very interesting character.
7 was yes.
And so,
not just because the bodysuit.
And you know that when they brought 7 in, that might be my favorite episode, although it's a dual episode.
Mm-hmm.
That might be my favorite.
Okay.
It was interesting that you get a little bit of that humanity exploration. It's testing Janeway's values.
Right.
I that one might be my favorite. But
I can see that. Yeah. For me in Voyager, I haven't watched Voyager as much, so I'm a little hazy on some of it. One of the ones I really like, at least it stands out to me in weird ways, is 7. Again, speaking of 7 of 9, it's when she ends up going a little bit weird. She was playing games with Naomi Wildman. Right. She plays board games, like her personality keeps shifting because she taps into some weird
Borg thing.
Borg-y
And
thing.
So she's hearing all of these personalities of the different Borg that the people that the Borg assimilated. Yeah, that one was good. It was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the acting that she did, that Jerry
Yes.
Ryan did there, was amazing. Being able to channel so many different personalities was awesome.
That one was great. The other one that stands out is, again, it was a 7 of 9 episode, but they had rescued some Borg children.
Yeah, I really liked that.
And it ends up with the older Borg male who sacrifices his Borg processor or whatever to keep 7 alive.
The cortical node, yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly, I've watched Voyager a lot more than you.
Yes, I have not watched it recently. And yes, you watch it a lot more than I do. Next Gen, it's hard to say for what my favorite is. I mean, The Inner Light is great. There's one, which is weird because I don't like Wesley Crusher as a character, but there's the one he comes back with the game.
That one was good. That one was good. It was a good Wesley Crusher episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably my favorite Wesley Crusher episode.
Yeah, I have a hard time with Wesley, especially early on, because you knew from like the opening credits, if Wesley Crusher was featured at all, he was going to solve the problem. Didn't matter what the problem was, Wesley was going to solve it. That just gets old. You know, sometimes there were some good episodes with him, but my favorite, that was that one with the game. There's one other one I can't remember it offhand, so obviously it's just not that good. No, it's the one with the clones and the society that split. With 2 different
that one was a good one. I really liked that one.
Yeah, 2 different colony ships one goes off and they run into issues and they start resorting to cloning and all that. And then there's the other group that's Irish rednecks. It was kind of, I mean, let's jump back to, okay, redneck is wrong. It's old, more an older type society, like an 1800 society. And seeing them and having to mesh and all that stuff, that was a fun episode. And then the original series, my favorite, I really like City on the Edge of Forever. The Devil in the Dark.
That one's really good too.
With the Horta might be my favorite.
That one I really like because you get, again, that spirit of cooperation between different species.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wildly different species, and they have to realize that this thing actually exists and that it's an intelligent being.
Right.
And that was really interesting, that you can, there are ways that you can cooperate with people who are wildly different than you are.
Mm-hmm. It was,
just have to get over yourself enough to do it.
well, yeah, because you're overcoming, because it plays out at first as your sort of monster movie, right? There is this thing, we can't kill it. We hit it with a phaser. It didn't stop. And it's killed people, and then it destroys the atmosphere unit. And we find it's a mother protecting the eggs. You know, I was like, oh, and yes, we can cooperate. And it is one of those really good science fiction stories that some Star Trek sometimes pulls out, that it's just like, yes, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But they had to get over their preconceived notions to be able to understand this creature.
Right.
And not just react.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to understand, take the time to understand this creature, to figure out what was going on. Why was this creature doing it? And they find out it had a perfectly reasonable explanation for it.
Yeah. Star Trek, the original series, I think more even than the others, had its share of monster episodes where you're on a planet and something on the planet is trying to kill everybody. This one takes that trope and says, no, it's not a monster in that sense. It is, you go to, well, was humanity the monster? Because it broke into her nest and started killing the eggs. Yeah.
It turned out that neither really. They were both doing what people do in those situations. If you're a mother trying to hatch these eggs and protect them, and people are destroying them, of course you're going to fight back.
Yes.
And then on the other side, you find these things and they're just, you don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. They look like, they call it a silicone nodule or something like that.
Right.
And you don't know what it is. It's in your way.
Mm-hmm.
What else would you do with it? Just like anything else, any other, what you see is junk. You just get rid of it, Mm-hmm. It's perfectly reasonable on both sides, which you see a lot with people dealing with other people. Everybody seems, in general, humans tend to see their own side as perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But taking the time to sit down and try and understand the other point of view is the only way to really get along.
Right.
And so that's one of the episodes of Star Trek that really showcases that growing up of humanity, I guess, by exploring those things.
Right. And actually what's fun is the number of times that happens, and they do it through comedy. Right? Whether it's Tribbles had some of that, or a piece of the action where they run to the planet that's all run by gangsters.
I can see that would be comedy. For me, it's very tension filled. I'm just like, oh.
It is. On
But
the other
once
hand,
once you watch it the first time and you go back and watch it, then it's just like, you know where it's going, and you can kind of see that humor. Oh, wow, they're modeling their whole society over after this, really?
yeah. But they have something called a clutch, Captain.
Yes.
Right. And there were, I want to, Next Gen didn't lean into the comedy quite as much.
You got little bits of humor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes Data would completely not understand certain things. The one episode where he's trying to understand humor is hilarious.
Yes. That one is fun.
Or Guidance, you killed the joke, Data. Although humor, you want to humor that one where Riker is trying to teach Crusher, Wesley how to get a girl.
Yes.
And he has Guinan help him with this, and he's talking to Guinan, and
yes.
That is so funny. I love that scene.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And
Wesley back there like a typical teenager going,
okay, and
I don't think this
slowly...
is my style. I don't think this is going to work. And
Homer
Guinan's like,
Simpson
yeah, this will work.
Oh, yeah. Riker and Guinan had a moment, and meanwhile, Wesley's just backing into the bushes. He's just going to step out of this.
That was a teenage moment of Wesley, if I've ever seen one. Because, you know, teenagers who think parents and adults really can't teach them anything, and and they roll their eyes, and yeah. That's Wesley, a teenager, right there. Hormones and everything.
Yeah, definitely. That episode with Data in the comedy, was that Data's Day where it just follows him?
I don't think so.
Around, because that was another interesting episode of Data, following Data around the ship, where he you know, Keiko and Miles get married.
Yes.
And
so that definitely wasn't the one with the humor.
No, okay.
I don't even remember the names of most of the episodes, but
I
remember what they're about.
Yeah, there are a few the names stick and many that don't. So the long and short of it is there are some really great television that happens in Star Trek, and that's why we keep going back to it, because it's just so good most of the time. So we have gone on for almost an hour, so I think we
could talk about Star Trek forever.
And we are going to. For those of you who are watching this later, we are definitely going to be doing more episodes talking about Star Trek, diving into specific series or specific episodes or all sorts of stuff. So let us know. Drop a comment, wherever you're watching this, YouTube or Spotify, or let us know. One, what's your favorite episode? And what would you like to see us dive into? It has to be some of the classic Star Trek, because we don't have access to Paramount Plus. So we're not going to be able to see Strange New Worlds, sadly, or the rest of Picard, probably for a good thing, or anything like that. So, but let us know, and we'll dive into it. And thanks for coming on, love. This was all sorts of fun. Said we could talk Star Trek forever. So, and to the rest of you, be excellent to each other, live long and prosper. And this is Music Free Static signing off.